Severus Snape. The Harry Potter character, here played by the great actor Alan Rickman, the late great actor Alan Rickman. I handed my essay in late because my kids got sick. Ooh, I wouldn't want to deal with Severus Snape if I had to make an excuse for handing in my essay late. Maybe I should have said it like this. Okay, which one do you suppose was probably written and which one spoken? Written language, especially written language in the academic world, tends to be highly nominalized. What does this mean? Well, in this presentation, this is exactly what we're going to explore, amongst other things. Have a look at these two texts. I'd like you to focus on will take longer in the first text. Because the jobs are more complex, programs to train people will take longer. Alright, let's do a bit of systemic functional linguistic analysis, SFL analysis. What kind of word group would you call will take longer? Well, in SFL terms, it's an action or material process, right? And if you're not sure what this means, I would look them up in the course materials because these are important concepts to the analysis we're going to do here. Okay, now look at the wording more complex. What kind of word group would you call more complex? Well, again, in SFL terms, it's a participant describing the jobs. You could say it's an adjectival phrase. How are jobs? They're more complex. So look at what both of these becomes in the second text, the blue one. The process, or verbal, wording has been nominalized in the second utterance. That is, it has been turned into the thing extension. The quality, or adjectival wording, has also been nominalized in the second utterance. It has been turned into the thing complexity. There are other things to note as well. Programs to train people in the first utterance has become training programs in the second utterance. So we can now name the ways grammatical resources have been differentially deployed in each text, can't we? The second one is in a more formal register, and in linguistic terms, this means that it uses more noun groups. Utterance 2 is a more nominalized version of utterance 1. Okay? All right. But so what? What should we make of this? Well, from a social perspective, we might say that texts which are more nominalized tend to be prestigious, at least in certain social environments. You know, the second text sounds more formal and important, perhaps. But is that all there is to it? If you want to sound prestigious in certain social environments, and I wouldn't recommend it down the pub, by the way, you produce texts like the second. Otherwise, the less nominalised form is perfectly fine. Is that all there is to it? Is there anything going for nominalisation besides social advantage? The question might be put like this. Is the highly nominalised and lexically dense text of academic writing academically necessary? Well, to answer this, let's consider the semantic possibilities associated with nominal or noun groups compared to verbal or verb groups. Let's compare what's going on when we generate noun phrases as opposed to verb phrases. We'll start with things, the meaning potential of nominal groups. Here's a thing, spiders, the 3 spiders. We could say the 3 redback spiders, the 3 shiny red-back spiders. The smallest of the 3 shiny red-back spiders. The smallest of the 3 shiny red-back spiders in the corner. Get the idea? Alright, let's try expansion in a verbal group. We'll start with the verb to spin. Spins. Is spinning. Has been spinning. Will have been spinning. May have been going to have been spinning. Okay, this isn't so easy. What's the difference? Well, we can do many things with the noun groups in English. We can specify, describe, classify and qualify, for example. We can also expand the verbal group, yes, that's true, but notice, crucially, it didn't increase the content. It results, in other words, in non-content aspects, such as tense, number, aspects, voice, but that's about it. So here's the bottom line. By turning verbs and other parts of speech into nouns, we increase the possible content of our text. That is, its lexical density. So there's one advantage then, besides possible social prestige for the more nominalised texts of academic language. I wonder if there's anything else. Look, Professor Snape, I handed my essay in late because my kids got sick. A likely story, and do you think I care about your progenic preoccupations? This is an academy, Harry Potter, not a charity house. Alright, I made that up. Now, imagine you also wrote to him, though, explaining the situation. And one line reads, "The reason for the late submission of my essay was the illness of my children." Because it's in a written mode, and we're wanting to impress Snape, right? The register of the message changes. In everyday interactions, we don't tend to talk like this. Well, let's look at these two utterances a bit more closely. Both have the same content, the same set of actions and events in the real world, but what linguistic differences are there that could make some other kind of difference? This is one sentence made up of 2 clauses. I handed my essay in late because my kids got sick. The 2 clauses are linked with a logical connective or conjunction because. Each of the 2 clauses describes processes, the concrete actions, hand in, get sick, expressed by verbs, performed by different human actors. I, my kids, with the actors occupying first position in each clause. Now this first position business is very important because it is the way our language gives prominence to this part of the message. But in this sentence, the message has been condensed to fit one clause. How? Well, by turning the actions of handing in and getting sick into things. What kind of things or nouns? Submission and illness, i.e. abstract nouns. The only process we now have is the non-action verb, the relational process is. So what? Well, by turning what were verbs into nouns, the sentence is able to express a logical relation between the 2 events, also through a noun, the noun reason, which now occupies first position, notice, and becomes the point of departure for the message. Right, so the human actors of the first sentence have been demoted in the second sentence, if you like. Both the I and the my kids are no longer pivotal actors in the clauses, but only possessors, my, positioned now as qualifiers to the nouns, my essay and my children. Also, note the lexical change of kids to the RP English form of children. Thank you, Dr. Snape. Alright, look at these. I feel that closing the gap is tricky because kids just don't have the feel for talking in the same way as the way academics sometimes talk to each other. The challenge of closing the gap is related to students' limited repertoires of academic registers. So you can see a difference here, can't you? Now I've underlined is tricky and is related to emphasise an important advantage of the nominalised academic text. This is not the advantage of prestige here, but something else. Yes, you could say closing the gap is tricky, but to speak about it like the way you might in the second text gets us closer to a theory about it, a theory as to why it might be tricky. Now, what do you think about theorising in this context? Is it a good thing? We might believe that a theory is promising because it begs us to do something with it. You know, it's not personal, and so it might result in some genuine change as to what we might do or need to do. What do you think? Alright, but let's do some more comparisons. In the following examples, the second specimen is the more nominalised. We need to keep the park so children have somewhere to play. We need to keep the park for children's recreation. Which one expresses the most agency? The first one, right? So children have somewhere to play becomes children's recreation, a noun phrase. A whole clause has been nominalised. And notice that children's recreation is an idea that is more abstract and generalised than the more specific and concrete idea of children having somewhere to play. Because the president failed to remove the troops, many deaths occurred. The failure to remove the troops resulted in many deaths. So here's another example, another sort of important thing to notice about nominalisation. Nominalising clauses and verbs enables the removal of agency and time. Now in this example, the process of failing has become failure, a timeless, agentless phenomena. Failure. It's hard to say who is responsible, and this might be a problem in history writing, right? Downplaying the fact that it is individual people who actually do things and therefore have responsibility. But interestingly, this diminishing of agency is welcomed in a field like science, which emphasises a whole methodology devoted to filtering out subjectivity. Of course, the second text could have said the presidential failure, right? Not just the failure, but the presidential failure to remove the troops resulted in many deaths. That would have been more open and honest, perhaps. But even here, in that phrase, presidential failure, agency would have been diminished, as again this nominal group is an idea more related to the office of president, rather than to an actual human being. Alright, so much for some of the implications of nominalizing language. I'd be interested to hear what you think about all this. But let's now turn briefly to some ideas for how to do it. How do you nominalize verbs? He sang his heart out could become the heartfelt singing. She ran very fast could become her fast running. What we're doing here from a linguistic perspective is what? Make sense? And here's another idea for going about nominalizing. So, frustrate becomes frustration, right? Organize becomes organization. Argue, argument. Govern, government. And two more examples. Refuse becomes refusal. Propose, proposal. Alright, so I'd like to end on a text that illustrates the creative power of noun phrases, since we've been talking about nominalization. So here's a picture by the 19th century French artist Gustave Doré with a very dense description next to it. Even though it's a simple sentence made up of two noun groups with a post modifier, I think you'll agree that it's very dense. I mean, we could have said the children lived in the corner. But the resources of the nominal groups make it possible for a lot more information and subtlety to be expressed. So thinking about the transitivity system, participants are in yellow and the process is in blue. And of course, we could also add a circumstance. Let's choose an adverb. All right. Okay, well, thanks for listening.